Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do a new project, and it's going to be a little trial and error. So we're going to try something new, and what we have is we have a new chest style toolbox that's going to go in the back of the truck. Problem is that I really don't like chest toolboxes sitting on the bed of the truck. You lose all that space that's underneath the toolbox. So we're going to create an aluminum riser using channel and tubing to get that off the deck so that we could slide plywood underneath the toolbox. So I really haven't tried this before, and I know that a lot of other YouTubers have tried other different methods, and I'm just going to show you what my trial and error is. Might not work, but we're going to give it a shot. So let's pull this toolbox out and we'll start measuring up. The bridge support we're using is two 5-inch channels by 2 3/4 inch by 1/4 inch thick, 22 inches long. This bridge of 3 1/4 by 1 1/4 1/8 inch thick tubing, 60 inches long, will sit on top of the channel. This will support the toolbox. It'll be bolted through the channel. The length of 60 inches may vary on your project based on the length of your toolbox and the inside dimension of your bed. To fasten the channel to the bed, I am going to be using number 14 1.5 stainless steel sheet metal screws. This will be screwed down from the channel into the bed. If you have access to some of the areas underneath the bed, it would be best to bolt this. Unfortunately, I do not have access. So my trial and error for this particular job is how long will these hold up. To attach the square tubing to the channel, I'll be using 1/4 inch by 2.5 number 20 stainless steel machine screws. I will also be using some 1/4 inch stainless steel lock washers and some 1/4 inch by number 20 nylon lock nuts. So I decided also to pick up some brand new drill bits. It's always nice to have brand new drill bits when you're starting a new project, especially one that you've invested so much money in your steel. I picked up a file so that I clean up the edges on the aluminum after I make my cuts. I also picked up a wire brush wheel just in case I needed to clean up some of the face of the aluminum, and some mini brass brushes just in case I wanted to braze any aluminum on this project. I don't think I'm going to do that, but I'd like to have the option later in the project, and I don't want to run to the store and get brand new brushes. So all in, cost for the aluminum was about $120. Cost for all the hardware about $30. That's all the stainless steel parts and your tools. So for under $150, you're able to raise that toolbox, that chest style toolbox, off the bed of your truck and pick up some great room for 5 to 7 sheets of plywood into the bed of your truck. I think I'll be able to utilize this much better than having the chest sitting directly onto the bed of the truck. So I'm real happy with the mock-up on this. I like the height where it sits. I had to pull the box a little further away from the wall, but that's going to give me a little bit of storage in the back. Also the ability to clean back there with a hose, spray out some of the leaves or whatever that might get caught back there. But I'm happy with the height. My main concern, especially with these toolie racks, is that you can't put a saddle style box on the truck if you use your toolie racks at full distance. And I wanted to get more distance out of it than I had prior. I had a saddle box on here before, and I only had about a 4-foot distance between the two racks, and that just wasn't enough for me. So by adding this riser, I was able to have some space underneath the box. My main concern was when I have my racks low, which is most of the time, was I going to be able to open the box? And basically it's almost near full access. It's a little over 45-degree angle. It's probably like about 55-degree angle. Plenty of room to get in there for my tools and stuff. As you can see, the supports, the load is going to be supporting onto the channel, so any weight that you might have in the box is going to carry that load down through the channel. It's not going to be so much on the tubing itself. So any of that load's going to be carried through your side bars. You'll have a little bit of flex in there. So if you wanted to up your game on, if you're carrying a lot of tools and a lot of heavy equipment into your box, you might want to go with a larger tubing on that. And then again, you might not have an issue at all with the toolie racks. You might have just a standard steel rack. But this seems to be a good look. I'm happy with the height, with the box, the top of the box, compared to the bed of the truck. I like how it looks with the cab and the rack. Again, it's going to give me some good storage. So I think what we're going to do is go ahead and mark out some measurements on this, and then we can start drilling some holes. So now I just want to take my file and hit any of these sharp edges off. So this is not necessary, but I'm going to go ahead and wire wheel this aluminum just to clean it up a little. So yesterday, before I quit for the day, you'll see I added epoxied on 2 aluminum shims, 7/16 of an inch in thickness. This is all solid aluminum. And the reason I did that is because the channels are actually going to be attached to one of the ribs on the bed of the truck. But the rib stopped about 6 inches away from the end. And my concern was additional weight being pushed on that end and flexing as I'm traveling or hitting bumps or going off-road or whatever would put too much stress on these 3 screws that will be screwed into that channel. So this will support it. Again, I just used a 2-part epoxy to adhere this to the channel. You could braze it if you want, but because it's not, there's no shear issue at all on this. It's just a matter of holding it in place as this is flipped over and sitting into the bed of the truck. It supports that end. Let me show you how that looks. So as you can see, this rib stops right about here. And once that channel is up against there, we've got about 6 inches of space. And if you had a heavy load in there, you might put a lot of stress on your bolts or your screws. Again, this would probably be ideal to just use bolts on this, and then it would carry that load. But by adding this support, it now has a leg to stand on, pardon the pun. And we could still attach those screws right into the channel, and then it's going to be fully supported. So I feel confident that that's going to work fine. Again, I'm using screws. I may end up changing that out later. It's just there's a couple of frame issues underneath here that is not allowing me to easily access that. I guess if we strip down some of the items underneath there, we could access it a little better to put bolts all the way through. I'm just going to try the screws, see if that works, and then we'll update the video in 6 months, see how it lasts a good summer season. But that's going to help secure it with the 3 screws in place. I feel confident that this will stay in place. So this bed trim piece here is a 1/2 inch away from the wheel well. I want to keep this inside edge of the channel the same distance as my wheel well, so when we're sliding plywood and everything just kind of tracks well. So we want to set this back a 1/2 inch from the inside. 4 feet is actually on this side of the track. The distance between the 2 tracks is 4 feet, so that'll give us a little bit of breathing room as we're sliding plywood in underneath the toolbox. So Then I'm just using a silver Sharpie since we have black bed liner. Just easy to see it. And another good reason for drilling this hole a little extra larger is it allows you to bring that Sharpie down, and then you could actually have that be a plumb point to make sure that when you're marking that, it's straight up and down. I think it's pretty obvious that I don't really need to mention this, but for YouTube, let's go ahead and talk about it. Always make sure that there is nothing underneath there that you could drill into. As you can see, this bevel here, this is my inlet for my gas tank. So I was very aware of where to drill into this rib to make sure I was away from the line. My line is actually underneath this hook, and it is about 8 inches below this rib. So I know I'm not going to punch through it, but always use a depth guide. This is thin sheet metal. It's, you know, it depends on your truck bed, but maximum 1/8 of an inch. So you don't want to go any deeper than that. So use a just a real simple set screw here that goes over your drill, and these are real cheap. They're just drill stops. You could pick these up at every single box store, and set it to, you know, as shallow as you can. Again, the other thing too is that we don't want this this drill bit wobbling, because that's going to open up the drill hole size larger than our screw. So we want to be very stable with punching through this rib. That's all it takes. So here's another opportunity before you start bolting everything in place. You can see I have a lower hook here. You could attach a carbine on here or some kind of a hook to carry that strap out, maybe out here, so you could utilize that space. I may do it, but I have a little bit of room to get in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and mount this. So there's two options for mounting the tubing to the channel. We can either pre-mount the tubing to the channel and then add our box, or we could set everything up best we can, clamp it into place, and then screw down through the box, in through the tubing, through the channel, and then bolt everything together. I've chose to mount all my tubing onto the channel first and then add my box later and attach it with self-tapping screws. There's no right or wrong, but it's just way I just want to have a nice clean everything lined up, and I know that it would slip and slide around if I tried to set the box on here and everything just be kind of out of whack. So we're gonna go ahead and do it this way. I'm using nylon washer nuts on here, plus a lock screw. It's probably redundant, but what the heck? Cheap insurance. Now's a great time to add some silicone over the top of your fasteners. It's not necessary, but why not? Also a good time to access any of those hooks that might be buried by the toolbox. I'm going to put a lock in the back here for future use. So this is just another option of getting your toolbox, your chest style toolbox, off the bed of your truck, allowing more storage space underneath your toolbox. And hope you guys got something out of that. Maybe it sparked some interest or gave you some ideas on some different ways that you might want to do your chest style toolbox in the back of your pickup. If you could leave a comment down below, let me know what you think. I'd sure appreciate it. Also, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel. I've got lots more projects coming up. I'd love to share with you guys on this. And yeah, let's see how this works out. Check back in 6 months. Thanks, guys. See ya.